Hello, dear students, how are you? Hope you will be enjoying all the lockdowns inside your house, safe and sound. So, today for class 12th students, we're going to start English core subject in which we have two books, Flamingo and Vistas. Starting with Flamingo. So, this is your book, Flamingo. This is for the core on CBSE. So the first story of this book is the last the lesson, and the writer is Alphonse Daudet. He born in 1840 and passed away in 1897. He was a French novelist and a short story writer. The last lesson is set in the days of the Franco Persian War that took place or that broke out in the year 1870 and lasted in 1871, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Prussia and then consisted of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. So, first going on the story, we need to understand what was this Franco-Persian War. It will correlate the story with the history, the European history that impacted the Europe in a very immense way. So we go to the point, what was this Franco-Persian War? So my dear students, here you see the map of Europe consisted of countries like UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and many more. This war broke out between the Germany, you can see on the right hand side, and the France on the left hand side. The Persian army was consisted of this Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, etc. And this army led by Bismarck invaded France, and it occupied two districts, Alsace and Lorraine. It is marked with the red color. The territory of France is marked with the yellow color, and the gray color, you can say, was the Persian army. And these were the districts, this was the geography in which the two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, fall. And these two districts were occupied by the Persian army. And we are studying the story of these districts. What was the impact on the life of the people living in these two districts, and how this affected the basic fabric of thinking of the people of these two districts. The last lesson is in the beginning of the book, because this story gives a very acute, very accurate, you can say, the lesson in which one can understand the value of time. It is the last lesson, but in the beginning, so that, my dear students, you can also understand the value of the time in the beginning, and you can utilize the time according to the speed of the time. You will accomplish your work in time, so that at the end you will not regret, as French, the hero of this story, felt. So here we have already discussed some points. Now, what is this story all about? In this story, the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Persian hands. So what happens after Lorraine and Alsace passing in the hands of the Persian soldiers? What was the effect on the life of people? And especially the story highlights the effect of this on the life at school. How a student of your age feel when he heard that his school and the districts were occupied by the enemy soldiers. So we will find out some of the phrases in this story that may be difficult to you. So in the beginning we will discuss those points. The first one is in great dread of. This in great dread of means, dread means fear. In a great fear of, when we are under the fear, we feel that we are not able to express ourselves. That is the impact of this dread, this fear. And the writer purposely used this phrase here in the story, in a great dread of. Counted on, this is the next one. This counted on is the past form of count on, and count on means depend on. So this counted on means depended on. And then the next one is thumbed at the edges. Thumbed at the edges, when you hold something by your thumb in your palm, so you feel that after using that thing for a long time, it gets worn. Worn means it gets soiled, it gets smoothened. So you can find the impression of the thumbs and the hand, especially in the books and others. So here this particular phrase is used to hold the primer. Primer is a religious book in Christianity. So this particular term, thumbed at the edges, is used that a book that was used for so many time, and this book belongs to the Christianity. In unison, unison means in happening at the same time. Something, the people reciting something at the same time. This is the particular reference to the story when the students learn their lesson together in a classroom. They learn in unison. So this was the meaning of in unison. Next one is a great bustle. This great bustle is used especially for the classroom again. It is an active commotion. Commotion, do you know commotion? It's a kind of noise, excitement. When the people are in excitement, they make the noise, especially when your teachers comes late in the classroom. The way you talk in the classroom is a great bustle. So here again, this term is used for the classroom situation when the teachers are absent. Next one is reproach ourselves with. This reproach ourselves with means to express disapproval. When you are not agree with something, when you disapprove something, so you reproach that thing. Especially when you disapprove yourself, it is called reproach yourself. If you disapprove ourselves, it is reproach ourselves. So it is reproach ourselves with. So when you will use these terms, these all phrases in the sentence, then there will be a clarity in the meaning. And you please keep this in your mind. You keep your pen and your notes always ready, so that any point that is difficult to you, you please jot the point down on your notebook. You please write down the point on your notebook, so that it will be evaluated, it will be assessed when you will come back to school. So this is important. Before beginning the story, you all have to keep this point very clearly in your mind, that you will write down, you will make notes. At the end of the story, you will be given the questions and you will have to give the answers to those questions in written, and will have to submit your progress, your notes in the school after reopening the school. So going to story, so we'll start straight away. I started for school very late that morning and was in a great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back the sawmill the Persian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rules of participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. This first paragraph tells the mindset of a common student who had been given homework and he had not done his homework. He is already getting late to the school. He is unwilling to go to school, and the explanation for not going to school is that the day was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping, and the open-field sawmill Persian soldiers were drilling, and come to behold for a student like French, a young student. And it was more tempting. The writer further says in the voice of French, the narrator, that it was more tempting, attracting. Everything was more attracting than the rules of participles. This was the homework given to the students by teacher M. Hamel. This story is particularly of M. Hamel, who is a teacher, and the narrator of the story is French, who is a student. So as a student, he is disappointed that he has not done his homework, which was on the participles, and at the same time he was very happy to see the things outside. Everything was in his interest other than the school. So though he wanted to stay at home, to skip the school, but He further says that he had the strength to resist. Resist means to stop, and hurried off to school. Means he resisted his emotion of staying at the home. So when I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officers, and I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith, washer, who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin, called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get your school in plenty of time." I thought he was making fun of me and reached Hammel's little garden all out of breath. So, in these lines, the poet, the writer, I beg your pardon, the writer talked about his journey from his home to the school. As he started to the school, and he passed the town hall. Town hall is a kind of public place where people gathered for their entertainment and for any sort of social function or anything that can be needed, that is needed for a social gathering, and the place is town hall for these purposes. In our city we have also a town hall. You would have been there for so many times. So he passed in front of the town hall. There was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. This term, a bulletin board, will come again and again. So you need to understand the term bulletin board. The bulletin board is a kind of notice board, because in those days it was 19th century, mid 19th century, and the media in the form of electronic media or print media was not so prevailing, was not so popular in those days. So the people used to use these bulletin board for the information purposes. Means the government or the authorities used to put the information or the news on the bulletin board, and all the peoples of that surroundings used to come to that place to get the information and get informed. So this was the use of the bulletin board. So because it was a wartime, everybody was worried for their safety and for the safety of the country. So every day the people used to come around the bulletin board so that they could understand they could know what is going on in the battlefield. So when he passed the town hall, in front of the town hall there was a bulletin board. The bulletin board means a place from where the people were getting the news on those days. So there was a crowd. The things that came in the mind of French was, for the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? So, for the last 2 years, because the France was engaged in war, so when a country is engaged in a war, so you cannot expect the good news, because if your opponent is stronger than you, then definitely you will expect the bad news. And so was there in the case of Persian and France. Persian soldiers were a combination of many nations, so obviously they were very strong in comparison of French army. That's why they had already lost 2 districts. So we will come to know this fact afterwards. But here he says that the last 2 years, all the bad news they had received from this bulletin board, sometime the news was in the form of lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and today, means on that day, the French thought to himself without stopping, because he was having late for his school. So he thought, what can be the matter now? What could be the bad news now? He speculated. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith washer, who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin, called after me. These are the people in the public places. He was a blacksmith with his apprentice. Apprentice means a person who is appointed as an assistant to assist in a trade. If a person is appointed by a person who is skilled, and he appoint a person who is for the sake of assistance, who is learning the same trade from the person, is called apprentice. As when you do some trade, when you do some skill, when you learn some skill, so initially you are sent for the apprentice for getting skilled in hand. So the washer, the blacksmith with his apprentice, he was there to read the bulletin board, called after me. After me means behind me, because I was moving ahead in a speed. So he called me, he addressed me from the behind. Don't go so fast, bub. You'll get your school in plenty of time. So no need to be worried, boy. Bub means boy. You will get to your school means you will reach to your school in plenty of time, means in the time. There is a plenty of time to reach to school, so you need not to run. Plenty means so much. So this was the first part of the story. We will continue the story in the next video. Till then, the homework for you is to find out all the difficult words that you have seen in this paragraphs, in these lines. You will note them down. Then you will take the help from dictionary and you will write down the word meaning. At the same time, you will write this whole part of the story, means the story that has been taught to you, the part of the story that you have seen in this video, you have understood in this video. You need to make a summary of these paragraphs only. In 10 to 15 line, you will sum up this first part of the story. So you will do this in your notebook, English notebook. So you have, hope you would have got a notebook. If you can't afford a notebook, so you at least get some pages and write down your hard words, the meanings, using the words in your sentence, and then 10 to 15 lines to summarize the taught point, the taught thing, the taught paragraph in your notebook. So that's all for now. We will see you in the next video, in the next part of the story. So hope you will enjoy. Stay inside, stay safe.